Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something straight. The biggest thing holding most of you back is not lack of talent, not lack of money, not lack of opportunity. It's your mindset. You wake up every day worried about being late, worried about what people think, worried about not having enough. And that fear, that comparison, that's the poison. Here's the truth: you are not behind. You think you're late because social media told you someone else made it faster. That's noise. Life is long. And if you're breathing, you're early. Stop rushing your life because someone else is winning on your timeline. Most people believe they are late, late to success, late to money, late to happiness, late to life. That belief quietly destroys ambition before it even gets a chance to grow. The truth is, this idea of being behind is an illusion created by comparison. You scroll through screens and see highlight reels, not the full story. You see wins without the losses, results without the years of work, and that tricks your brain into thinking you missed your moment. You didn't. Time is not your enemy. Time is your greatest advantage if you know how to use it. Every year you're alive, learning, failing, adjusting, and improving is building something inside you that shortcuts can never replace. The people who seem ahead right now often paid a price you can't see yet. Some will burn out, some will lose direction, and some will realize they were chasing the wrong version of success. Meanwhile, if you stay patient and consistent, you're stacking skills, perspective, and emotional strength that compound over time. Being early doesn't mean you've already arrived. It means you have room to experiment without pressure. It means you can afford to make mistakes while the cost is still low. When you think you're late, you panic. Panic leads to rushed decisions, shortcuts, and copying other people's paths. But when you realize you're early, you calm down. Calm creates clarity, and clarity allows you to play your own game instead of someone else's. The biggest trap is believing there is a universal timeline for success. There isn't. Life doesn't work on a schedule. Some people win early and lose later. Some struggle early and dominate later. The only timeline that matters is the one that allows you to grow without breaking yourself. Progress is not linear, and success is not a race. It's a long-term commitment to improvement. When you accept that you're early, you stop chasing validation. You stop trying to prove something to people who don't matter. You start focusing on learning, building, and becoming. You give yourself permission to be bad at something before you're good at it. That freedom is powerful. It unlocks creativity, resilience, and confidence that doesn't depend on external approval. The moment you stop saying, "I'm late," and start saying, "I'm early," your behavior changes. You invest instead of gamble. You practice instead of rush. You build instead of beg. And over time, that mindset quietly separates you from the people who quit because they thought time had run out when in reality, their best years hadn't even started yet. Most people spend their lives chasing motivation, waiting for a spark, a push, or the perfect mood to finally start. The problem is that motivation is unreliable. It comes from emotion, and emotions change daily. One day you feel unstoppable. The next day you feel tired, confused, or doubtful. If your progress depends on how motivated you feel, your results will always be inconsistent. What actually creates real, lasting progress is self-awareness. Self-awareness means understanding who you truly are, not who you wish you were or who the world tells you to be. It's knowing your strengths without arrogance and your weaknesses without shame. When you're self-aware, you stop pretending. You stop forcing yourself into roles, skills, and paths that don't fit you. That alone saves years of frustration. When you don't know yourself, you copy others. You chase what's popular. You follow advice that worked for someone else but drains you. That's why so many people feel busy but unfulfilled. They're working hard but on the wrong things. Self-awareness flips that. It helps you focus your energy where it actually compounds. When you build on your natural strengths, effort feels lighter and progress feels faster. This doesn't mean ignoring your weaknesses. It means being honest about them. Self-aware people don't deny what they're bad at, they manage it. They either improve enough to function, or they delegate, collaborate, or avoid areas that will never be their edge. That's not weakness. That's strategy. The most effective people in the world aren't great at everything. They're great at a few things and smart about the rest. Self-awareness also protects you from external validation. When you know who you are, criticism doesn't break you and praise doesn't control you. You're not constantly adjusting your identity based on likes, comments, or opinions. You move with intention instead of insecurity. That stability allows long-term thinking. which is impossible when you're emotionally reactive. Motivation tells you to start. Self-awareness tells you where to go and how to stay. Motivation is loud and temporary. Self-awareness is quiet and permanent. It builds discipline without force and confidence without ego. When you understand yourself deeply, you don't need constant hype to move forward. You act from clarity, not excitement. And clarity over time beats motivation every single time. Most people fall in love with outcomes. They want the win, the money, the recognition, the applause. What they don't want is the repetition, the boredom, and the quiet work that actually creates those outcomes. This is where most people lose. When you focus only on results, every delay feels like failure and every obstacle feels personal. That mindset drains energy and makes consistency almost impossible. The truth is, results are lagging indicators. They show up after the work has already been done, often long after the effort started. You can't control when results appear, but you can control what you do every day. When your happiness and confidence depend on outcomes, you give away control. When you shift your focus to the process, you take it back. Falling in love with the process means respecting the daily actions that compound over time. It means showing up even when progress isn't visible. It means understanding that boring days are not wasted days. In fact, most of the work that changes your life looks unimpressive in the moment. It's the small habits repeated without drama that quietly build skill, momentum, and belief. When you commit to the process, pressure decreases. You stop asking, why hasn't it worked yet? And start asking, did I do the work today? That shift creates consistency. Consistency creates trust in yourself. And once you trust yourself, discipline becomes natural instead of forced. Process-focused thinking also protects you from emotional swings. When you're result-obsessed, a good day makes you overconfident, and a bad day makes you question everything. When you're process-driven, your identity stays stable. You judge your progress by effort and learning, not by immediate rewards. That emotional balance is a massive advantage in a long game. The people who succeed long-term aren't the most talented or the most lucky. They're the ones who can do the same things repeatedly without needing constant validation. They understand that mastery comes from reps, not hype. They treat improvement like a lifestyle, not a short-term push. When you enjoy the process, patience stops feeling like waiting. It becomes part of the work. You stop chasing shortcuts because you trust that steady effort will get you where you need to go. Results still matter, but they no longer control you. They become a byproduct, not the obsession. Most people are terrified of failure because they've been taught to see it as a verdict on their ability and their worth. From a young age, losing is labeled as bad, mistakes are punished, and perfection is rewarded. That conditioning creates fear, and fear creates paralysis. People avoid trying not because they can't succeed, but because they don't want to fail publicly. Failure is not a final statement. It's a response. It's data. Every time something doesn't work, it's giving you information about what to adjust, what to improve, and what to avoid next time. When you remove emotion and ego from failure, it becomes one of the most useful tools for growth. The real damage doesn't come from failing, it comes from quitting after failure. The moment you quit, the lesson is wasted. But when you stay in the game, failure sharpens you. It builds awareness, resilience, and perspective that success alone can't teach. Wins feel good, but they don't always make you better. Losses hurt, but they almost always do. People who treat failure as feedback don't take it personally. They ask better questions. What went wrong? What can be improved? What part of this is under my control? That mindset turns setbacks into strategy. Instead of collapsing emotionally, they adapt intelligently. Ego is the biggest enemy here. Ego wants to be right. Ego wants to look smart. Ego wants to protect identity. Growth requires the opposite. It requires humility, the ability to say, I didn't get it right, and that's okay. The faster you drop ego, the faster you extract value from failure. Failure also builds confidence in a different way, not the fragile kind that depends on winning, but the durable kind that comes from knowing you can survive loss. Once you realize that failure won't destroy you, you become more willing to take risks. And risk is where opportunity lies. Every successful person you admire has failed more times than most people have tried. The difference isn't talent or luck. It's tolerance. They stayed when others left. They learned when others blamed. They adjusted when others complained. When you stop treating failure like an ending and start treating it like a lesson, the fear disappears. You stop seeing mistakes as proof that you're not capable and start seeing them as steps toward capability. That shift doesn't just change how you work. It changes how you think, how you recover, and how far you're willing to go. Most people think gratitude is soft, passive, or emotional, but in reality, it is one of the strongest performance tools you can develop. Gratitude doesn't make you settle. It makes you grounded. When you appreciate what you already have, you stop operating from desperation, and desperation is the fastest way to make bad decisions. A lack of gratitude creates constant dissatisfaction. No matter how much you achieve, it never feels like enough. You hit a goal and immediately move the finish line. That mindset creates burnout because you're always chasing without ever refueling. Gratitude interrupts that cycle. It reminds you that progress is happening even when it feels slow. When you're grateful, your perspective shifts. Problems stop feeling like personal attacks and start looking like challenges. You approach work with energy instead of resentment. You show up with intention instead of obligation. That internal shift changes how you perform, how you communicate, and how long you can stay consistent. Gratitude also removes entitlement. Entitlement says you deserve results just because you're trying. Gratitude says every opportunity is earned and temporary. That awareness makes you hungrier in the right way. You work harder because you respect the chance you've been given, not because you feel owed something. One of the biggest benefits of gratitude is mental clarity. When you're constantly focused on what's missing, your mind is crowded with frustration and comparison. When you focus on what's already working, your mind becomes calmer and sharper. Clarity leads to better decisions, and better decisions compound faster than raw effort. Gratitude builds resilience. On difficult days, it doesn't erase problems, but it puts them in context. You realize that a bad moment doesn't cancel a good life. That realization keeps you moving when motivation fades. It gives you emotional stamina, which is critical in long-term pursuits. Gratitude also improves how you treat people. When you appreciate others, relationships strengthen, opportunities expand, collaboration becomes easier. Success rarely happens alone, and gratitude makes you someone others want to support and work with. When gratitude becomes a habit, it fuels consistency. You stop needing constant external rewards to stay engaged. You find satisfaction in effort itself. That quiet, steady energy outlasts hype and pressure. Over time, gratitude doesn't just make you happier. It makes you stronger, more focused, and more capable of sustaining success without burning out. This mindset is about playing the long game with clarity and patience. When you stop comparing, understand yourself, commit to the process, learn from failure, and stay grateful, you take control of your direction. Nothing changes overnight, but everything changes permanently. And once this mindset clicks, progress becomes inevitable. Thank you.